Welcome, everybody. My name is Abi Lopez. Guess who I have today? Finally
Woohoo!
pulled him off the books of writing so many articles for us so you can read it on his websites, on his Facebook, all of these reflections that wow us. I pulled him today to be with us. Woohoo!
Oh,
Welcome, Dr. Jim.
well, listen, I am flattered and appreciative to be here. I always love doing this with you. And you know what's interesting? I get a lot of feedback from people and you're publishing these in other countries most of the time, but I get a lot of feedback from people in America about how much they enjoy these.
Amen. Praise God. So we got to continue.
Yes, we do. I
I
apologize too that it has been so long that it took us this long to get back together because like I say, I always look forward to doing it.
Absolutely, likewise the same. So, number one, I need to mention Dr. Jim started on his website, on his YouTube, on his site, new series called Understanding the Times. This is pretty heavy,
Yep.
scary, but the point is you can still remain in tranquility, the
Yep.
peace of God. It's not about being more fearful, but knowing what to do. So that's number one. But
Yep.
with that being said, Dr. Jim, this is pretty heavy, heavy subject. I
Yeah.
would like to light up today and
Okay.
talk about people who perhaps create those difficult times.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about complaining and constantly criticizing people.
Yeah, yes, they do.
We both don't do it, of course. No, never, right?
Oh no, no. I've never. I've only done that certain number of times.
Look, I got halo. Yeah, don't call my husband.
Okay.
All right, so we will talk about it. I would love to start with definitions of complaining and criticism, because those are two significant components that are being thorns in our heart. And of course, I will ask you to talk about the beliefs of our heart.
Yeah.
But you see, I Googled definitions of it, and it talks about emotional state. But I
Oh,
would love from you to hear, because so many times we deny, no, I don't complain, you complain, no, I don't criticize, it's an opinion. It's such a subtle line in between, I don't do it, it's just a fact I'm naming. We really are confused. Help us navigate. When do I complain? When I speak actually what's supposed to be spoken.
yeah. I think you hit on something there at the very beginning of what you were saying. There are there's this thing called nonverbal communication.
Mhm.
And nonverbal communication, it's really an interesting phenomenon because nonverbal communication, it can be the attitude that you're saying something with. It can be the facial expressions that you have when you say something. It can be your tone of voice. In other words, nonverbal communication, that's anything that we see or recognize that is communicating something beyond what's being said.
Hmm.
So for the person, so like if you were complaining to me, I would see that from the outside. You wouldn't because you're looking from the inside.
Yeah.
And it may not even be your intention.
Mhm.
I'll never forget this woman that I had been friends with.
Mhm.
We had done a lot of ministry things together. She was in health, a certain health practice, and of course I had a clinic, and so she would come in sometimes do some work in my clinic, and I thought we were great friends, and I had something on my mind one day, and she walked up and said something to me. And honestly, I was thinking more about a situation that I had just minutes before had to deal with.
Mhm.
And so I had this, I'm sure I had a look on my face, and I don't know what it was, but because I was still disturbed over this conversation I had just had with somebody. And man, she was telling me something, and man, just out of the blue, all of a sudden, she just unloaded on me. I mean, she got hateful, and she said, "Oh, I see how you feel about this. What do you mean you see how I feel about it?" I said, "You can't see how I feel." I said, "I'll tell you how I feel." And this woman actually never spoke to me again,
Wow.
and really went out and tried to cause trouble for me. And at one time, finally, I got her to sit down with me one time and just say, I don't even know. I don't even know what happened. And I said, I don't even, if I said something to him, she said, no, I saw the look on your face when I told you whatever it was she told me. And I said, that didn't have anything to do with you. I said, I just had a horrible conversation with somebody. And honestly, I don't even know what kind of look I had on my face. But she would not accept that. Now, so here comes the interesting statistic. Statistics show that if there's conflict or difference between what you're verbally saying and your nonverbal communication, which could be the look on your face, it could be the tone of your voice, it could be how you're standing, how you're moving your hands, it could be any number of things. People will always believe the nonverbal.
I'm sorry, I keep laughing. I have 1,000 thoughts. I'm trying to hold them, but you just defined lives of thousands of husbands.
Listen, no, that's life of thousands of husbands and wives. I mean, everybody goes through it, you know.
But why reason I'm saying is because wives usually pay attention to the tone, how he looked at me and stuff. Men don't care; they just like in their zone, like well, whatever, And wife is like, why did you say it this way? No, I see it. You're lying. Come on,
Well, it's painful. I mean, and it can cause conflict that you can't even, sometimes you can, like with this woman, I've never resolved this conflict. To this day, she hates my guts.
Oh my God. Oh,
and I've apologized. I mean, I apologize. I said, if I did it, I didn't know it, but I am sorry. I did not want this. I did not want what I just went through to bleed out on you. So keep in mind, so the nonverbal communication, if we're the ones speaking, we don't see it.
Yes.
But they see it. But now here's something very interesting.
Yeah.
What, and we'll get to the heart. We'll come back to that in a minute. But yeah. if I'm looking like I'm worried about something, or maybe I'm thinking about something, and for that person to be affected by it, they actually have to pass a judgment. So now remember, judgment is when we assume to know why somebody's doing something. It's not judgment when we know what somebody's doing. One of the big things I see today, people are so nuts today. I mean, the world's getting crazier by the minute. Oh, yeah. But like if somebody lies a lot. I know a lot of people lie a lot. I know a lot of people don't even tend to lie a lot. They just maybe exaggerate, or what I mean? They don't call it lying. They don't think they're lying. But so if somebody, I've had this happen to me many, many times, where somebody would tell me something, I would know for a fact it wasn't true. And I would say to them, you know what you're saying is not true. Oh, are you calling me a liar? No, I'm just telling you, and I will gladly show you how I know that it's not true if you'll listen. So if a person's lying to you, and you don't want to attack people as much as you can, you don't want to get in anger and conflict, but at the same time, if someone's lying to you, you have every right to say to that person, that's not true, and I don't know. You might not realize it's not true, but it's not true. That's not judgment. You're seeing what they're doing. Yeah. But now, where it would become judgment would be, I know why you're lying to me.
I see. Have you ever heard of book Cybernetics?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he discussed exactly, let me just say quickly, because it's exactly what you're talking about opinions or judgments, like you talk about, versus facts. He says, statistics shows us that 99% of us live in opinions that we create and judgments. Like you talk about. So what was he doing? I just want to quickly explain. He was a doctor, surgeon, fixing basically people's faces and whatever appearance. And after he did it, they looked, let's say, perfect. He took their scars off. They still lived in their opinions of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about. We are so possessed in living in our judgments that we just cannot see the facts. Dr. Jim, how can they get out of that prison?
Well, and before I address it, I just want to say this to our audience. we are not followers of the writer of Psycho-Cybernetics.
Oh no.
There are some good, he's one of those guys that's, I wouldn't tell anybody to follow him or read his stuff, but he did have some good information in that book. And I read the book because I had friends that were reading. I didn't even know who the guy was at the time. Now he is a cult leader, the guy that wrote that book.
Whoa, yeah, same thing like Dalai Lama. He's got great quotes
Yeah,
and we can say it, but it doesn't mean we're gonna follow him.
right.
Absolutely. You're right. That's
I
good.
just wanted to make sure that nobody thought you were,
No, 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 no.
suggesting that person to anybody.
No. What we promote here is the
That's
Bible.
right. Absolutely.
It's in
Absolutely.
Polish. Look at this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So ask me the question again, so make sure I'm on track here.
Opinions or judgments versus facts. We live basically in our opinion, how to get out of that prison and move on and see the facts that people talk about, address about me, but I'm so possessed with me and my opinion.
Well, and really you answered that question because that is it. The person is obsessed with their opinion, which the Bible would identify as basically as self-centeredness,
Mhm.
unteachable,
Yeah.
foolish. As a matter of fact, when somebody got real mad at me one time and about you saying somebody was really acting like a fool, and they sent me an email and they said, the Bible says you go to hell for that. I'm
Oh,
so, and I said, well, maybe you should have asked me a question like, what do I mean when I say that person was acting like a fool? Because in the original language of the Bible, there's really several different words that are all translated as
mhm.
fools or foolishness.
Yes.
And so when I'm using that term, I'm using it the way the Bible primarily uses it. The Bible teaches that among the most difficult people to help
Hmm.
are the foolish. Now, the reason they're so difficult to help because the primary characteristic of a fool is
Yes.
that they are unteachable and that they are in love with their own opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if a person is unteachable, to be honest,
Hmm.
uh, they're far and few between that you can help them
Hmm.
because all of that comes out of a heart that has some really maybe fearful things in it, low self-worth. It can go anywhere from low self-worth
Yeah.
to just being an outright liar. And
Yeah.
you never know what you're really dealing with.
People are loaded with expectations and they just build one on top of the other like bricks and they can't get rid of it
Right.
because those expectations are not being met
Right.
because of themselves. They close the doors oftentimes,
Oh yeah.
close their ears.
Interesting thing
Uh-huh.
about expectations is
Mhm,
that most, I've been in the ministry over 50 years.
mhm,
I
mhm.
pastored for over, I don't know how many years, 30 something years, 40 years, and have, had a ministerial associate. So I've worked with people
Mhm,
forever.
mhm, mhm.
And I found that most people who end up having bad attitudes toward church and toward a pastor, and they get mad at people and they leave and they hate church and they hate God and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, I have followed through, not just when it's happened with me, but I have followed through. Other pastors would call me and they said, man, I'm having a conflict with church. Will you come and help me? And I'd come and meet with the people. And I was always amazed at, I actually would have people say, well, I know that person never promised to do this for me, but I thought they should. And
Mhm.
so they have an expectation. I had a woman, I'll never forget it, man. She came to my office one day and she was all mad about something, and and she was just, I mean, she was just so furious with me. And I told her, I said, look, first of all, it's not my responsibility to do these things.
Mhm.
You have a responsibility to go to these people that you've got issues with, and you have a responsibility to work that out. You
Mhm.
don't even, biblically, you don't even have the right to come to me and complain to me about this person if you haven't gone to them and tried to resolve this conflict.
Wow.
And so this went on for several conversations, and finally I said, I don't understand this. I said, you see what's in the Bible. I've already told you, I've already given you my answer, and And I said, I don't understand now. You're mad at me. I don't understand what I've done to you. She said, well, you didn't do anything to me, but I just expected you to help me with this. And that was it. She left the church, hates my guts.
Look, expect people. When can we dissect for a second expectations? I love how you dig into it a little deeper. So we place does expectation, when is expectation being born? It's quietly in our mind, in our hearts. We don't tell that person. She never told you in the very beginning, in the first place, nothing. She blew up at the very end. So is that how we always do it, you think?
I think there's several different ways that it can emerge. You know, one of the things really kind of interesting in over in Luke 17, which we probably need to look at or discuss in several places about this topic today. But over in Luke 17, when Jesus says, you know, offenses are going to come, and but here's what's interesting: Jesus says, if you get offended, you need to watch yourself. Now, see, we would think it'd be just the opposite. Oh, no, no. The person that needs to be watching themselves is the person that's offended me. Why would Jesus say that when you get offended, you need to be worried about you? Well, because one of the reasons is because when we get offended, then we feel like we have the right to certain expectations.
Yeah.
And so we feel like then that we can demand things of other people, that we can manipulate other people, that we can do all kinds of ungodly things. And we think it's all justified because of the offense that they brought to us. Well, the problem is an offense is not when somebody hurts your feelings. An offense is not when something makes you mad. An offense is not when you disagree with somebody. An offense is something that happens where one of two things. Number one, a person violates a scriptural boundary that they should not violate. Or number two, an offense can occur when a person willfully and deliberately tries to trip you up.
Oh, I thought offense starts when I allow it to come to my heart.
Yeah. So again, in both of those, in any of those scenarios, anytime there's a scenario, with offense or with, then there's always going to be unmet and sometimes unjustified expectations that are going to be involved on one side or the other. But when Jesus talks about how to resolve this offense, and it doesn't, you have to break down the original language to catch it. But in the original language, it talks about going, if your brother offends you, go to your brother. And I don't remember if the King James has to rebuke him or whatever. That word rebuke is not that's not a good translation of that word. But the concept is you go back, you be direct with that person, but it is implied in the original language that you go back and set boundaries. And so one of the things that I see all the time in marriages, I see it in family counseling and drug, I had a drug program for decades and working with drug addicts or whatever, where people for various reasons they won't tell their spouse. They won't set boundaries with their spouse. They won't, if somebody comes to me, for example, and whether it's a woman or a man, that matters. So let's say a woman comes to me and says, I'm just so hurt. My husband keeps saying these horrible things to me. And I'm like, well, have you ever talked about it? And that the woman be like, no, I can't talk to him. He just, he's overbearing. He's hard to talk to. And I said, well, then you can't establish boundaries if you don't talk to that person. And if you don't establish boundaries, you have no right to complain about this.
Or to expect anything.
Or to expect anything else. Just say expectation and complaints. All those things kind of roll together in one attitude. And so, what Jesus is describing, let's say if me and you were disagreeing about something, and maybe we weren't mad, maybe we weren't upset, but maybe all of a sudden, and it may not have anything to do with me. I may not even understand where it's coming. I may have said something that triggered you. You know what I mean? Or I may have done something that reminds you of what somebody else did in the past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then so suddenly kind of jack up on me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, wisdom would say,
Yeah.
wait till she's cooled down, wait till you're cooled down,
Right.
go back and
Mhm.
don't attack. Just go back and say, you know something?
Mhm.
I really did not appreciate the way you talked to me.
Mhm.
And give the person a chance. I mean, honestly, because you may say, Brother Jim, I didn't even realize it. I'm sorry. You may be like I was with that woman that got so upset with me. She didn't even give me a chance to say, I just came out of a really bad meeting, a really bad conversation,
Yeah.
and I did not realize what I was doing. And she didn't give me a chance to apologize. She didn't give me a chance to tell her why. She just passed a judgment about why I did it.
So those are lacks. We have lack of abilities to name our feelings.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So, but at some point,
Mhm.
if you were to do that, I give you a break. I think, okay, man, I understand now. No problem.
Yeah.
And so, but what if that happens several times? Well, at some point, if I'm following what Jesus taught, I would come back and say, Abby, you know, I don't know if you realize, but this is kind of getting to be a repeated issue between me and you, that you get upset and you talk to me in a way that
Mhm.
I'm not really going to accept. And even though I love you and I care about you, you got to understand something. Uh, if you continue to do this, we're probably not going to have much of a friendship.
Wow.
And it's all about me. Well, no, I'm just saying we got to work this out. And I'm saying these are my boundaries.
That's awesome. You just answered my next question I have written down. But what about people who can I ask them? Let's say they want to talk to me about something, and I say, could you tell me what are your motives about our conversation? And if I hear something that I don't feel comfortable, I'm gonna refuse meeting with them.
Yeah. Either
Okay.
refuse the meeting or just say, I'll meet with you, but we won't talk about that. I mean, in other words, there's a lot of ways you can establish boundaries.
They might get ticked off, like, what? You're not gonna talk to me? La 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 la. No?
But if they get ticked off, then good thing I didn't meet with them, because it would have turned into an explosion.
Yeah, but then they're gonna create judgment and complain about you. You don't want to listen. You're not open. You're not this and that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, and I always tell people, it's like, you know what? You can say anything you want to say to me or about me. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I do want you to understand something.
Uh-huh.
If I'll work things out with you if you want to work them out. But I
Yeah.
want you to understand,
Yeah.
when you go out here and start slandering me, you're
Mm.
doing one of the things that the Word of God says that He hates more than anything.
Mm. As long as they listen to you. Many times people
Oh
walk
yeah.
away from you.
You know, and I've done this more than once, but there was a lady who worked for me. She was actually on staff with me,
Hmm.
and her husband got on drugs.
Oh.
And she was, I don't think she was naive. I think she was codependent, and
Hmm.
she just was. And I didn't say anything. I got a drug background, so I can usually spot it pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I spotted it, but I didn't say very much. I went and talked to him. I didn't want to go to her. To me, that would have been gossip or slander. I
Right.
went straight to him. And so they had money come up missing. They were about to lose their house. And, he always had all of these crazy stories about somebody's somebody stole money out of his cash register. He had a business or whatever. And so this went on and on and on. And one day I just said, something, I think you're in denial here. And so I said, I think. I didn't just pass judgment. I just said, this is what I think. This is what it looks like.
Hmm.
And so she said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I said, look, I have avoided talking to you about this. I've talked to your husband about this several times. But if we want to help him,
Hmm.
then enabling has to stop. And one of the things, as a family counselor, you realize as a family counselor, if you've got somebody in a family that is a drug addict, an alcoholic, or anybody that has a habitual
Yeah.
behavior that's unacceptable,
Hmm.
you cannot help that person unless you find the family member that enables it.
You love mentioning Melody Beatty
Oh yeah, yeah,
Dependency No More,
yeah,
as well as Take Control of Your Life, Dr. Jim Richards.
yeah.
Order that book, guys. It's gonna put you back on your feet. Keep
Yeah,
going.
if you're dealing with codependency anywhere in your family, take
Hmm.
control of your life. It, I have gotten incredible testimonies from that. But anyhow, the long and the short of it was,
Yeah.
so she said, "Well, what are you talking about?" I said, "Your husband has a drug problem." Oh, he does not. I said, "Look, I got a drug background. I know it when I see it, and all of these things that are happening, I'm telling you, that." He's got a drug problem. And I said, the reason I'm telling you this is I can't help him. I've gone to him, so I can't help him as long as you keep enabling him by, these stories he's telling you not true. I mean, this would be really gross, but this kind of stuff you run into in counseling. So I don't know if I should tell you. Now I can tell you the story, and if you need to, you can cut it out.
No, no, we won't.
No, I'm telling you, this is nasty.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Hmm.
so he came up
Hmm.
with blisters on his penis.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. Okay.
And when she asked, and she told me, she said, well, but he explained it to me. He got in the shower and the water was too hot. I said, let me ask you this. Were there blisters anywhere else? She
Oh,
said, well, no. And I said, well, if it had been the shower water being too hot, he would have blisters all over him.
that's right.
And I said, how can you believe this
Hmm.
story? I said, he is evidently
Hmm.
sexually involved with somebody.
Yep.
And I said, I'm not telling you to divorce him. I'm not telling you to throw a fit on him. I'm telling you to have a conversation where you sit down with him and confront the issue.
Hmm.
So what happened is she got mad. She left the church. She went around, told all kinds of horrible stories about me. And that happens. That's when people getting mad
Yeah.
and they don't want to deal with their issues. If you're the pastor,
Yeah.
they're gonna get mad at you
Yeah.
always.
Because you're on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not that. It's just that if
But
you're like, even, you're not a pastor per se, but you're
mhm.
in the ministry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that would mean that any of your friends that start getting into stuff that you don't even know about,
Hmm.
their heart so condemns them when they're around you
Yeah.
because you're living godly and that makes
Mhm.
them feel bad about themselves. So I always blame somebody in the ministry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. I see.
So the long and short of it, so finally, man, she goes out and, says all these horrible things. So finally one day, several months later, she calls me and she's all upset. She says, Brother Jim, I'm just so sorry. She said, I have been really saying some really bad things about you. I
Wow.
said, well, come in and talk to me. So she
Mhm.
came to the office to talk to me. We sat down and talked. And so she said, I'm so sorry. She said, I never meant to hurt you. I said, you didn't hurt me. I said, I didn't know you were saying that stuff. I didn't. And I said, I said, I'll tell you who you did hurt.
Mm.
You hurt every person that you lied to about me. You hurt them. You hurt their relationship with this church. You hurt their relationship with God. This
Wow.
is why one of the things that God hates more than anything is he who sows discord among the brethren.
Mm.
And so she said, well, there's nothing I can do about it. She said, I've already done it. It's over. I don't, she said, how can I make it right? I said, I'll tell you how you make it right. I
Hmm.
said, give me a list of the people that you know that for sure that you talk to. And she didn't want to. And I said, I'm not going to call them. I just want you to give me a list. So she
Wow.
gave me a list. And I said, okay, you go home
Hmm.
and you check these off one at a time. And if you want to have a relationship with me and with this church, then you come back after you call them and you call these people and tell them that you were just angry and that you either lied or exaggerated or however you want to say it. But you need to tell them the truth for their good, for their protection, not for mine.
Wow.
And she did.
Wow.
And
That's
we got our relationship restored. She came back to church and she went back to working for me. She worked for me for another couple of years.
wow. So look, you took that confession to another level. People think, I'm telling you, majority of us think it's enough if I say sorry. That's it. That kind of a sorry. That's it. Like, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, say sorry, like kids say. You say sorry to your brother. Okay, and that's it. No, you've got to fix it. You got to clean up your mess. Wow. That's good. That, she was humble. She was
Well,
humble.
see, here's what we don't understand. We,
Yep.
we make, we don't make a distinction between reconciliation and restitution. The Bible teaches, for example, Jesus says,
Mm-hmm.
if you're standing there at the altar and you're getting ready to give an offering, and suddenly you realize there's somebody you owe money to that you haven't paid,
Yeah.
he says, leave your gift at the altar. Well, he tells you to do that so you won't take that
Mm-hmm.
and use what you committed to God to pay your bills with.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want to, you don't cause other heart problems. So he says, you leave your gift here. You go find that person that you owe that money to,
Mm-hmm.
and you better reconcile with them. He said, because if you don't, they might sue you. And if they sue you, the judge will put you in prison. Well, the prison he was talking about was debtor's prison, where you had to go and work off what you owed to them. And
Yeah.
he said, and boy, a lot of people who have these goofy liberal concepts of God do not like this. But he says, and you will stay there until you pay the last penny. In other words, Jesus did not come. Forgiveness, he forgives us. Forgiveness is not a problem.
Yeah.
But we never really get our heart right if we don't make restitution. If I owe you money, it's not enough to just, I'm sorry I didn't pay it. Goodbye. If I talk bad about you, it's not enough to say, oh, I'm so sorry I talked about it. No, make restitution, heal the
Mm-hmm.
hurts that you caused in other people, but more importantly, you don't understand the hurt that you're causing to your own heart. If you don't do things like that, how will you in your heart? If your word is not good, if you're not merciful, see, you can only reap what you sow. Now, God's always merciful,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm not merciful, I
Mm-hmm.
can never believe that he really forgives me.
Yeah.
So I'll always have guilt over
I
these
have,
things.
I have
Always.
to mention you another best-selling book, The Immutable Law of the Sea. Just the title will spike you guys up. You have to order another book. It will be in the description. Dr. Jim, restitution. I love digging into definition. Restitution is exactly, it means return, restoration. God is God of restitution, replacement. It also means recompense of for injury and loss. They are like a compensation,
Yep.
recompense and reparation. You've got to fix it. So
Yep.
because I've tried, you have to fix it, right?
Right.
Wow, that's deep.
That is the breakdown of the American legal system.
Hmm.
Crime in America,
Mhm.
has constantly risen for the last golly 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
Crime first uh, started spiking when judges started trying to pass make laws from the bench, and instead if a person's guilty, instead of just charging them with what the law says, the government says, oh, well, we don't know why he did this, so maybe he had a hard life, so you know what, I'm not going to put you in jail today. And so
Hmm.
that all that person knows is I got by with it, and they go out and do it again.
Yep.
And so, but then the second thing that happens is is courts, I don't know how many decades ago, quit requiring people to pay restitution. And God's justice, here's what God's justice is in the Bible. That God's justice says, whatever you do to a person or whatever you try to do to a person,
Mhm.
if it turns out to be false or if it turns out to be criminal, then whatever you try to do to them, even if you sued a person and it turns out it was a bogus case, then under the Bible you would have to pay them what you were trying to sue them for.
Mm.
And so restitution is the place where a person has to accept responsibility, and they have to realize that crime and pain and hurting people costs me more than it does them.
Hmm. Yeah, wow. I'm looking at definition of justice, the American regular Supreme
Yeah.
Court justice. I don't know how to read these words. Sorry, my Polish limitation, my language.
Nobody knows how to read those words.
Ah, yeah, but it's basically what you're saying. Yes, I mean, no, in compared to God's justice, it's much lower, of course, but it means a judge or magistrate, I don't know, in particular, a judge of Supreme Court of a country or state, just behavior or treatment. This is definition of justice, American definition.
And,
Does
and so, but you see, that's really not what the Bible says.
exactly.
Originally, our courts
Hmm.
ruled and our laws were built on what was in the Bible,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but it's not anymore. And that's why crime is totally out of control. And I don't want to get too far off this because we need to get back to the whole complaining thing. But,
That's funny. Don't
but
complain. Why are you complaining? What's wrong with you?
But
Yeah.
everybody talks about the scripture where it talks about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And they talk about, well, if you do that, then everybody's going to be blind. Well, they're misunderstanding what that verse is about. That verse is saying that what you owe that person that you have harmed is that you have to then suffer the whatever you inflicted upon them.
Yes. And here is your another best-selling book, God's Wisdom for a Fair and Just World. You guys gotta order that. It will be in the description. Keep talking. I'm like your announcer. Pause, wait, I have to say commercial. Keep going.
But anyhow, people might be saying, well, where does this get into complaining?
Hmm.
Because we're in a society that's corrupt.
Hmm.
We're in a society where somebody can do something damaging to you, and they go to court and they don't have to pay anything back. They don't have to do anything. They might not even go to jail. They might not even have to pay bail in some of these crazy liberal places. And so, what is if you can't get justice,
Hmm.
and I'm not just legal justice, but like as friends,
Yeah.
we have to give each other justice,
Hmm.
like and establishing a boundary and saying, you know what, Abby, I'm not comfortable you talking to me that way.
Hmm.
So I am asking you to show me the same kindness that I'm showing you. So
Hmm.
I'm creating justice between me and you. You might do this. You might try and say, well, you know what? I know I was complaining. I know I was being critical, but you upset me about something. I might say, okay, tell me what it is. Let's work it out. Let's give justice and mercy to each other. Mercy doesn't mean you don't pay the debt. Mercy just means I'm not going to kill you for the debt
Or pull your teeth out.
or pull your teeth out. That's right. And so if there's no justice, if problems are not resolved and true peace isn't made,
Mhm.
then all you have left to do is to complain.
Hmm.
So the lack of justice always brings people. Well, they're either going to complain or they're going to seek vengeance,
Wow. So
and really complaining is a form of vengeance.
vengeance, but it's not so negative. Could you talk about positive and negative complainant? We want to know as a listeners, when can we complain? Sometimes we see David, Job. I mean, everybody in the Bible will complain, even
Yeah.
Daniel to God. Look at the world, Jeremiah. You
Yep.
know. Okay, talk. Mhm.
Well, you know, in the Bible,
Mhm.
it's one thing when we see a word translated into English,
Mhm.
the word complain. So our problem is in our language, and it's probably this way in the Polish language and the other languages that people speak. You have a word in the Bible that's been translated, and in our language, for example, complaining only means one thing.
Mhm.
But when in the Hebrew language that it might be written in, or in the Greek language, it could be several different things.
Yeah.
And so when we start talking about complaining, everybody in their mind goes to what it means in their language.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so there's aspects of complaining that we don't even understand in the English language. We don't even get it.
You don't. You don't.
And
Wow.
what's really interesting, there's a difference between what a word means and how that affects you.
Hmm. That's great.
And yeah,
I have, sir, can I say one thing? I
yeah, of course you can.
Hebrew original meaning of complain. It is, of course, to complain, express grief, pain, or discontent, make an accusation, find fault, grumble, murmur, nag, and whine.
That sounds like some of my marriage counseling notes. So, but okay, so now we got a better definition, but we still are not talking about how it affects me.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is every one of those words in the Hebrew are a reference to meditation. So when you're complaining, murmuring, whining, when you're doing that, you are reliving something in your mind and you're making it come alive inside your heart. Now, remember, anything that you think about until it starts producing those emotions, once it starts producing those emotions, according to Jesus' teachings, you are now planting seeds in your heart. So the thing that you're complaining about, the offense is growing more and more. And what's interesting, every time you complain about something, you kind of change your memory of what really happened.
Wow. Yeah.
And every time you change that memory, it grows, that seed is growing in your heart. And you, not that other person, not what they did to you, you fill your heart with hatred. You fill your heart with wrath and anger. And it might be over something that was nearly nothing until you thought about it, complained about it, murmured about it, gossiped about it, told your story to other people, laid in bed at night thinking about it. And man, that's growing and growing and growing. And then you get down the road and you can't figure out why you're not happy. You can't figure out why you can't get along with your spouse. You can't figure out why people don't like you anymore. You know what I mean? You got all these things happening and you're like, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, that's because we don't really know and believe what the Bible says. You did something wrong. You did something very destructive to yourself. That's why Jesus said, if you get offended, you better watch yourself because you will end up destroying yourself.
What about suppressed feelings? Many people don't know or are just introvert or what for various reasons, fear and blah, blah, don't know how to describe their feelings or are never heard by the other person. So they suppress it. Do they plant an even deeper, more dangerous seeds in their hearts?
Yes.
That gonna blow up one day. Wow. So isn't it better to release them? Somebody will say,
Yes.
I'm just expressed. If I have to complain, I feel better.
But see, that's now they have taken what our English language and the Bible language calls murmuring, complaining, slandering, gossip. Now, and they've just redefined it and said, no, I'm not doing. I know the Bible says this was gossip, slander. I know what the Bible says, but I'm smarter than God. So really, no, I'm not complaining. I'm just, like you said, I'm just letting it out. But you see,
and you feel better. I feel better sometimes when I say it. Like I have to call my friend and just tell her, like, I'm so tired. I feel better. Sorry.
And that's fine. You know what? Oh, listen, that kind of reminds me. One of the things, and when you're in the ministry, you're always in the public. You're always visible. And I know you have to get on the platform every single week. You're right in front of anybody, and I mean in front of everybody. And so, have you ever had this happen where somebody walks up and you don't even know that they're upset with you about something, but they'll walk up and say, Abby, I just want you to know, I just didn't really like you much for a long time, but I just want you to know, I'm better with you now.
I would I'm kidding.
I mean, you're like, you should have kept that apology to yourself.
Shut up, man.
It amazes me that how rude, unkind, unloving people are. And then they don't understand why their heart is so messed up. They don't understand why they can't trust God. They don't understand why they don't get along with people. And so, with my staff, Now I don't really have much of a staff now. Everybody works for me, as a contractor. Everybody,
Mhm.
you're in Chicago. I got people in Tennessee. I got people in other countries that work for me, and so it's different now. But
Yeah.
but with my staff, when I actually, went and had associate pastors and, all these people here, one of the things I always tell them, I would say, now look, it doesn't matter how justified we are
Mhm.
in being upset with somebody. That doesn't mean we can violate walking in love.
Mhm.
So if I come to you in the name of reconciliation, but basically I attack you
Mhm.
in the process, then that's not love.
Mhm.
And so here's one of the things I would do. I would do this with every now and then when I get a bunch of new staff members or in a staff meeting. I say, so let me ask you this. Be talking to some of my small group leaders, my pastors and stuff. I said, so let me ask you this. I said, if somebody really did something stupid and hurtful, and you could tell I was really upset, not necessarily hurtful toward me, but hurtful toward other people. So like you can tell that I'm visibly upset.
Mhm.
And I were to say to you, I want you to go deal with that situation. I
Mhm.
said it with that force.
Yeah.
So what would you think I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And of
Mhm.
course, they would always be afraid to answer because they're like, this, I know this is a trick question. But they would think that because I was upset and I had that strong tone of voice that I was basically saying, go jump on them, go chew them out. And I'm like, well, see, that's the problem.
Yeah.
You're passing a judgment now. I
Mm.
meant what I said, not the tone of my voice. And I
Mhm.
said, it doesn't matter how upset I am. If I say you go deal with that situation,
Yeah.
you never abandon walking in love when you go deal with that situation. You go and be as kind as you can. You go and be as merciful as you can. And you go with the intention of helping that person.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
see, remember, when offense comes, then we feel justified in violating God's word.
Yeah. Wow.
It's all right. It's all right for me to be mean to you because I didn't like what you said.
Yes. Yes. Wow. You remind me, I'm sorry for bringing up secular stuff
No,
today.
it's all right.
I don't know if you ever saw, because you're so busy, you saw a very popular American show called The Office. It's a story about Bob.
I've seen a couple episodes of it.
Okay, Michael Scott. And why it got so popular in America in the past decade? Because every time he opened his mouth, he would complain or offend people or criticize them in so inconvenient way. I mean, so obvious
Yeah.
that everybody were mad at him. He broke literally every possible boundaries. So I think that would be good example of explaining, hey guys, go watch
Yeah.
The Office, one episode to understand what Dr. Jim talks about. I'm just telling you my thought.
No, this is you know what? That's the kind of stuff we used to put into skits. Used to almost every week I would have a skit.
Oh, I wish I saw at least one. If you guys have it somewhere, I would love to include it in this video. I'm gonna ask Tanya.
I don't think we have any of them on video. We never videoed
Oh,
them.
shoot.
But what we would do is we'd have the worship service. And
Yeah,
usually I would have my invitation to get people healed and saved during the worship service. I didn't wait till the end of the service.
of course.
And so then after the worship service, I'm wanting to get people's mindset where they're going to be ready to hear the message.
Yeah.
And so so we would act out something like what you just described. Then we would have a song that went right along with it, so that by the time
Whoa.
we got into the sermon, they
Yeah.
were already ready to hear
Yeah.
something about criticism or gossip or whatever it was we did a skit about, and people loved it. But what I always thought that was more effective than my teaching.
Yeah. This is so creative. Did you write him?
Most of them, yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I wish I lived closer to you. I would nag and knock to your door and say, come on, let's make more. We could create
We
more.
could.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Speaking of which, by the way, I've been working on some songs lately. I'm thinking, well, it's about time me to ask Abby to sing another one of my songs here because
Yes.
you did such a great job on that song. I love the way you did it. I love the way you played it. I love your voice in it,
Thank
and
you.
I want to. I've been dealing with some things over the last few years.
Yeah.
I've been storing all this stuff up inside. I'm
Mm.
doing a lot better health wise now. So it's like, okay, I'm getting this creative stuff out. So be
Let's
ready. You'll be sending something
uh,
for us real soon.
we have to give Jimmy Bratcher some solo.
Yep, that's right.
Because that's good. You know what? But let me say back to your book. Perhaps you could write book with skits, and one day one of us could recreate them if you write it.
If I could find, we probably got them in a computer. I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure I wrote a couple hundred scripts.
Yeah, and I would love your commentary on that script. We could just literally create video where there is skit and then your commentary. Woo! I'm telling you, we're gonna open new YouTube channel for you.
Well, there you go.
Jim Richards Productions.
So where do we need to go on this whole topic that we're on? Where
Yes,
do
I
we
have a
go
question.
next?
Mhm. I have a question to you.
Okay.
Because I know a couple of people, let's say, if not more, who claim, listen, Abby, I'm so open. Let's say they come to me. I'm open, you can tell me anything. Let's just be honest. My heart is teachable, and they say right words. But as soon, and I always say, no, no, I hesitate. No, 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 you're fine. You're fine. No, tell me, Abby, I know you can tell me, la, la. So, okay, here I am. They asked me, they invited me. I feel comfortable because they seem like open. So I tell them a little bit. Okay, when you do this, blah, blah, blah. How dare you? They changed. They changed.
Okay.
And they over preach to me or over talk to
Yeah.
me. What's to do with those people? I'm sure you've heard them.
Well, there can be several things going on. Number one,
Mhm.
they may think that by doing that, you're not going to be honest with them. They
Mhm.
may think that you're going to take that as an apology, that you're going to
Mhm.
take that as they're open, so everything's all right, no need to talk about it. So maybe that, or and I hate to say what I'm about to say. I'm just going to tell you.
Please do.
I love God's people. I love church. I love, I love everything about about the kingdom of God. You know what I mean? But I have to say,
Mhm.
most of my life now, in the when I was saved, first saved, and was in church back in the early 70s. Uh, you know, I was fortunate. I was in some good churches, but here's what I found. Oh, and I hate to say this.
I'll say it.
Almost all of the pastors that I knew were very insecure, codependent, controlling, and very non-relational.
Mhm.
They did that. And I'm not trying to pick on pastors. I'm not saying all pastors are that way, but most pastors ruled from a place of authority.
Mhm.
And in my book, Leadership One, the leadership that builds people, I talk about this thing where Jesus himself said,
Mhm.
we are not like the Gentiles. We do not exercise authority over anyone or lordship.
Yeah.
Now, I'm telling you, when I wrote that in that book, and I wrote that book back in the 80s,
Oh.
and I'm telling you, pastors lost their minds when they read that because their whole church membership class, when you'd go join the church, was all about catch our vision, do what we want you to do, and submit to authority, and be sure and give money every week. That was pretty much the full extent of a church membership class.
Oh my gosh.
And so now, but let me say this too, to their justification.
Mhm.
Uh, most pastors have never been adequately trained or equipped to put up with all of the backstabbing and attacks that you go through when you're a public figure.
Wow, that's huge. Would you write book about it? And
I
for
I,
leaders
I
too.
need to. Actually, I am. I'm rewriting the entire Leadership That Builds series right now. It's going to be about 5 volumes,
Five
and
volumes.
and
Wow.
I'm going to have in it a lot of stuff about dealing with people and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So so
So good.
So, as a matter of fact, stop and think about it. Most politicians, most people who, if a person craves to be in a leadership role, they have a codependent problem.
Oh, oh,
The
wow.
most powerful leaders are what I call the reluctant leaders,
Mm.
where they want to help people, but their ambition to help people has nothing to do with being in charge, has nothing to do with being the leader. It just has to do with helping people,
Yeah.
loving people.
Mm-hmm.
But you get people who crave
Mm-hmm.
leadership, they have a codependent problem. They have a need that they're trying to meet by either fixing other people or being in control of other people or having status or having popularity. And and again, I don't even fully blame those leaders that do that because in seminary, in Bible college, see, in our Bible college, it's all, I would always tell the students, none of this, I'm not teaching you any of this to use in the ministry. I'm teaching you this to use in your life. You apply this to your life, and when you get in the ministry, you'll survive. When you get in the ministry, you will be equipped to deal with all this stuff that we have to deal with all the time. And you know, it never ends. I mean, you've been in the public ministry, Abby, as long as I've known you, and probably before that. And you know, it never ends. There's always somebody lying about you, manipulating you, wanting something from you, criticizing you, trying to get your job. I mean, it never ends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so and so these guys, they're not trained in seminary and Bible college. They are not trained to develop their own character. They are taught to learn things to use to minister to other people,
See
but not
that
to themselves.
that is why I'm so attached to and I take slow your school of the Bible. Sometimes I repeat classes because I want to hear it over and over.
Yeah,
Loved how even in past your old recordings you would stop in the middle of your teaching whatever you had agenda and the questions you would go over. You said, listen guys, I'm speaking to you like a father right now because you probably had young folks in the class, so
yeah,
that's what I'm assuming. And you said, when you get in ministry, da 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 da, you would always say, and you know what, that's what you're doing. You are preparing those young folks
yeah,
into what you're gonna put in your book. I love it. I listen sometimes to one class 5 times and I
yeah.
don't want to move on because I'm like, you teach so good. I'm telling you, it's such a yeah father
It's
moment.
just practical stuff, and you know,
Oh,
I don't,
mm,
you know, and I do see myself more as a
mentor.
yeah, more as a mentor or a coach or a father figure, not a father figure in the sense that I have any authority over any that kind of stuff. So what happens then
Yeah.
is that people go in the ministry
Mm-hmm.
and they are hurting,
Mm-hmm.
they're struggling themselves. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't want to help people because I think most of them do. I think most of them are genuine about helping people,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
their own issues always complicate
Yeah.
helping people, and it usually turns into something codependent where I need you
Mm-hmm.
to need me as your pastor.
Ooh. Wow.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, when Brenda and I first got married, Brenda came from a very abusive background.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, she had never had anybody treat her the way I treated her. You know, I'm not, I mean, I got a strong personality. I understand that. You do too. But I can keep that in check. I'm not running around. I'm not running around trying to control anybody. But at the same time, you know, sometimes if you're just direct, people can't take it. If they've been wounded, if you're direct at all, they get hurt
So
when you
her no Brenda's norm was different. For her,
yeah,
feeling normal was to be abused. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And well, and because it was in her background, and she was abused. So now, when I tell this story, I have had so many people get mad at me over this story, but they didn't understand that I was doing something for her benefit, not for my benefit. But you know, when we were first married, and I always let her know how much I loved her. I always tell her I love her. I always treat her and try to show her that I love her. I want my in our relationship, my number one goal is not for her to become what I want her to be, you know, all this kind of stuff. My number one goal is that at the end of every day, she feels more loved, more peaceful, more accepted just because of our time together. That's it. That's my goal as a husband.
That's good.
And so, you know, we would be together, and we'd be very loving and connected and talking to each other. And I would just say, you know, I absolutely love you more than anything in the world. She
Mm-hmm.
said, I know. I said, well, good, but you need to understand something. I'm never going to need you.
Yeah, right, right.
Oh man.
Yeah,
she
true.
would get so mad. I am telling you. And when I tell this story, people get mad at me. They're like, how could you do that? That's just so mean. Well, because see, remember, she came from an abusive background and she was in a safe environment. She was feeling loved. And so it'd be really easy for me to let her turn that into needing me.
Mhm.
And I'd always say, Brenda, you need your doctor when
Mhm.
you're dying. Don't mean you like him. I want you to like me. I want
Mhm.
you to love me. I want what we have to have nothing to do with needing. You can need somebody while you hate their guts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't want you to need me. Well,
Oh,
so oh man, it would make her so mad,
yeah.
hurt her feelings. But you know what? I can remember the day. One day she said this. I don't remember if she said it just to me or if we were in a group of people talking about relationships. But I can just remember one day she said, you know what? She said, one of the greatest days of my life was the day that I realized I didn't need Jim Richards.
Woo! And
And
everybody looks at her like, what?
listen, think of the pressure that took off of me.
Exactly.
When you're needed, that's a leech needs your blood. But if you let them suck on your blood long enough, you'll die.
Oh my gosh. Did you create maybe skit about that and had Brenda run after you with like a hammer?
We did a skit one time. You know the Willie Nelson song? It says, let me say, it starts out, let me say, maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I should have, or maybe I didn't do, that
That's
little
nice.
things I should have said and done. Oh, you're always on my mind. That's it. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so we were doing that in church, and this was, my voice has gotten worse the older I get.
Oh, you
I,
got
I
this
could,
voice. You
I
complain
could,
you're criticizing too much now.
I could sing decently when I was young, but boy, over the years, it's just gone down. So I can't even pretend to do it now.
Yeah.
So I was singing a special. I was singing Willie Nelson's special. You're
Yeah.
always on my mind.
Uh-huh.
And so, man, we're up there and the band is playing and it's sounding good. And Brenda gets up and she was sitting in a chair on the platform and it was like I was singing it to her.
Mhm.
And she gets to walk to me. She said, you know what? That's just not enough. I'm just kind of sick of this. I'm just sick of some of these things that you're doing. And most of the church thought that we were having a fight right on the platform.
Wow.
and, and then of course we brought it to a reconciliation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so many people never realized it was a skit. I mean, I've had people say, "Yeah, I remember that time I was in y'all's church. I got that big fight on the platform." I said, "That wasn't a fight. That was a skit, dude."
I know one pastor of a mega church, his wife for real did it. Like he says one thing, she says, no, we're gonna do it the way I tell you. And they started fighting for real. I'm glad you were pretending. Wow. Jesus.
But now, let me tell you something. One of the things I really have liked about Brenda. Now, I don't like the fact her behavior pattern would be such. If she really gets upset with me, she's just going to give me the quiet treatment.
Oh.
Now that's like getting stabbed constantly. It's dying by 1,000 cuts. But one of the things I have just so appreciated about her, though, is she doesn't complain about stuff. She might not be able to express. And that's
Yeah.
what the quiet treatment is about. It's not so much that she's trying to punish me. She's just not sure how to express what she wants to say.
Does she suppress it? Does she suppress it?
Well, I don't always know because I usually, in a period of time, find a way to make her feel comfortable
Yeah.
talking to me about it. And
Okay.
I think that's our responsibility. If we love other people,
Mhm.
even if whether they're being quiet or whether they're complaining, rather than us going into defensive mode
Yeah.
and trying to fix their problem, we really need to create a safe environment so that person can say what they need to say without complaint, without making a complaint, but
Yes.
or without holding it in and suppressing it. And
Hmm.
so usually if you make a person feel safe,
Yes.
they'll tell you what they need to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. Could you talk to me about self-criticism?
Oh man. You know, have you ever heard the album that me and Christy did?
Yes, but did you guys put song about it?
Well, there's a song on there about it's called "Talking to Myself,"
Oh, wow. Do you, if
and
you have it, we're gonna include it in this video. That'd be great. We could add it.
uh, I'll see if we still got some laying around somewhere, or either that, or we can just post the song. You know, that's fine. But the song, I wrote this song, and actually, me and her kind of wrote. I think we wrote this song together, maybe. But anyhow, the hook line in the song was, "If I talk to others the way I talk to myself, it wouldn't be long. I would have no friends left."
Whoa. Shoot.
Now,
So,
self-talk again is a form of meditation. Now, see, that's the thing about criticism. I'm so glad you brought this out, because in criticism, once something becomes a habit,
yeah.
whatever you're doing to other people, at some point, you're going to start doing that to yourself in some shape, form, or fashion.
Wow.
And so people who get a habit of criticizing, usually they're very deeply involved in criticizing themselves already.
And I remember you mentioned something about people who criticize themselves cannot accept God as He is, right? Because
Right.
this foundation.
Yeah, if I'm criticizing myself, then I don't feel like I deserve acceptance and mercy from God. So I'm expecting God to criticize me. And then I'll even get to the place where I feel like my negative thoughts about myself, that's God. That's God doing that to me.
That's why we cannot stop believing that God does not punish us, that He put it all on
Right.
Jesus.
Right.
We
Well,
say,
so think about First John. You know,
yeah.
First John says, and it's so interesting because, see, we think that in
Mhm.
order to get into condemnation, affect my prayer life negatively, there's got to be something really, really bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got to assertively do something. But John says, I think it's in First John chapter 2, he said 2 or 3, he says, if we fail to walk in love, he didn't say if you did something unloving, if we just fail to walk in love,
Yeah.
he says that our heart condemns us. And he
Um,
says, and then when our heart condemns us, he says, now God's greater than your heart. What he's saying, just because your heart's condemning you doesn't mean God's condemning you. But
mhm.
then he says that when we condemn ourselves, he says, then we can't receive the things that we pray for. Well, see, people twist that and say, oh, so if I don't walk in love, God's going to stop answering my prayer. No, that word receive, God's already giving. It's like God's up there throwing blessings at us. Boo, boo,
Right?
healing, prosperity, joy, happiness. But we're not catching them. We're not receiving them. But we receive them with our heart. And that word receive means to take hold of it, bring it into your heart. That's what that word receive means.
1 John 3:20. Just wanted
Thank
to
you.
pick you up. You're welcome.
And so, so it's not the fact that let's say if we're sitting here and maybe, I'm all absorbed into something I want you to do for me. So I'm kind of like, I'm just trying to talk you into doing whatever it is. And let's say maybe you're kind of hurting about something that day. I might even notice that you're off a little bit, but I'm just concerned with you manipulating you and doing whatever it is I want.
Mhm.
See, so I didn't really aggressively attack you, but I didn't show love for you. Because remember, agape love is to hold in high regard, to treat as being precious and
Mhm.
valuable.
Yeah.
So I'm not treating you as precious and valuable if I'm not saying, oh, well, maybe I better wait before I talk to her about what I need, and maybe I need to see if I can help her. So, but I didn't do that. I didn't attack you. I didn't do anything super mean. But the fact that I neglected to show you love means that when I walk away from that, my heart is not going to feel right. My heart, myself, my heart is going to condemn me. That's your conscience. That's what the Bible calls your conscience.
Yeah.
And so when that condemns me, it affects my ability to trust and receive what God's trying to freely give me.
Wow. I'd like us to go to the how, like you always pointed out. And, ever since I've heard you, I can't stop noticing this. Many people give good lecture, good
Yep.
preaching, books, but they only talk about if you in pain, if you in pain. They never talk how. They never get to the point of how to get out of it, how to possess freedom. You've been telling us already many times. You notice if somebody really listens to you, they understand it's all form of meditation. But could you now go to how to get out of it? Give us tools.
Well, there's, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things that you can do. There's a thing that I used to do, and if anybody has my prayer organizer, they'll see this in it. Or if you don't have my prayer organizer, that's fine. Just go to 1 Corinthians 13 and read about the characteristics of love.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, love is, I love the Amplified version too, but I love in the Amplified Bible, it says that love, and King James, it says love isn't rude. And in the Amplified, it says love isn't touchy.
Mm.
I love that. I'm telling you, because that pretty much covers everything. But
Yes.
so love is kind, love
Mhm.
is patient,
Yep.
love is this, love is that. So one of the things that I did for years, because I made a determination that I wanted to know the love of God. Well, I realized though I can't receive anything that I'm not willing to give away. So I knew that in order to receive and experience the love of God, that I had to first seek and commit myself to giving the love of God. Now you
Mm.
can't give what you don't have. It's a spiritual paradox. But the moment you choose to do it and you mean it, then you start experiencing something, and then you have the capacity to give it away. So for years, one of the things that I would do was every morning.
Mhm.
Now remember, I didn't write the prayer organizer to sell as a book. I
Mhm.
eventually had to put it in book form because so many people would contact me when they'd hear
Yeah.
me teach about prayer. They say, "Man, I got to have something to help me do that." So I came out with a prayer organizer. So in the prayer organizer, I have one thing where you're dealing with your issues. Where we're talking about, forgive us our debts as we forgive others.
Mm.
And so I have a whole thing on 1 Corinthians 13. And every 24 hours, every morning, I would read down that list of characteristics of love. Love patient, love is kind,
Yeah.
like I say, love is not touchy, love is not this, love is not that. And I would just think, okay, the last 24 hours, did
Mhm.
I violate walking in love toward anybody? Was
Mhm.
I rude to somebody?
Wow.
Was
That.
I unkind?
Mhm.
Was
Yeah.
I impatient?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if somebody came to my mind and I realized, oh, you know what?
Mhm.
And really, I would usually do that in a meditative state. By meditative state, and this is biblical meditation. We're not talking about some weird new age something. Biblical meditation is where you take the truth, particularly God's word, you
Yes.
think on it, you ponder on it, you see yourself doing it until it becomes real in your heart.
Yeah.
Just that simple. So if I real, and I would usually just try to get my heart zone, just go, okay, God, help me look over these last 24 hours. And maybe I would realize that I was unkind to somebody.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, when I would see it, and particularly when you're kind of in your heart zone, when you're connected with God, when I would come to this realization I'd been unkind to somebody, I'm telling you, it would break my heart. I'm telling you, I just couldn't understand it. And so I would either go see that person or call them. And I would say, listen, I didn't realize it at the time, but yesterday when I was talking to you, I realized looking back on that I was actually kind of not very kind. And they said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, that nearly always it was, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, I do.
Mhm.
And we were talking, and I said this to you, and I said, I just really feel like what was going inside of me, I wasn't kind to you. And they would
Mm.
say, well, it don't matter. I said, no, it does matter because you're valuable to God, you're valuable to me, and so I just want you to know that I recognize it, and I'm going to work on it, and I hope you can forgive me. Oh, you don't need forgiveness. I said, no, I do need forgiveness.
Mm.
And it's interesting. Sometimes we do these kind of faux apologies. You know what I mean by faux? Like they're not real. They're kind of.
Mhm.
And we'll go up and say, if I might have, maybe, sort of, kinda, in any way, possibly, but I probably didn't say something offensive to you, then uh, 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 I hope you forgive me. Goodbye.
Best way, if you don't reach them on the phone, you just
Oh yeah. It's like, I tried. You leave a message. Hey, yesterday when I cussed you out, I just want you to know I didn't mean that. Bye. So, but here's the thing. Here's something we don't realize. Number one, it doesn't matter if they realize that we did it or not. What matters is my heart's going to condemn me. And even if I don't realize it, if I don't my memory doesn't recall it, it's still affecting me inside. It's still affecting me. My heart's going to condemn me.
Mm-hmm.
But here's something we don't even think about. What if they did realize it? Mm-hmm. And I am now leaving them to walk through life with this thorn in their heart that I put there. And I'm the only one that can really they can deal with it. Yes, they can choose to forgive, but how much better it is if they get not just the thorn pulled out of their heart, but they get to experience some reconciliation and maybe some restitution in it. See?
Yeah.
And I tell you, you do that every 24 hours. I can tell you this, in 30 days, you'll change the way you treat everybody. You'll change the way you talk to everybody.
Dr. Jim, do you see best in people? Are you optimistic by nature?
I'm a paradox there because I get in a lot of trouble because I always want to believe the best in people. And I will trust people. I will catch myself trusting people that I should not trust.
So you're not sort of naive a little bit.
Can be. Yeah. Yeah, when you're merciful and you're wanting to help people, you want to see the best in them, you want to believe they're telling you the truth. And that's one of the things, that love doesn't rejoice in iniquity, it doesn't rejoice when you find fault in another person. So I'm not looking for fault, but here's the great thing, because of staying open to the Lord. Many times the Lord says, be kind to that person, but see, remember, love is given, trust is earned.
Love is given, trust is earned.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't live by that, what you will end up doing is not really walking in love. It'll be enabling. And so I do, but now here's another factor though. And I don't know how this works. I think anybody can get into this. The more we walk in love, the more we understand when something is authentic, the more quickly we recognize when something is false.
Yeah.
If you were to go to work for the Treasury Department as an agent, and they were going to teach you how to identify counterfeit money, they would never have you study counterfeit money first.
Right.
They would first have you study authentic, real money. Yeah. Because if you know everything about what's authentic, then you start recognizing very quickly what's not authentic. So the paradox for me is I very quickly identify when people are being deceitful. I very quickly identify when people are lying. I very quickly identify when people are trying to manipulate me. But that's always the tension in me is I still want to either see the best, believe the best, or help bring out the best in them. So it's all right to help want to bring out the best in them as long as you don't get into controlling or thinking you're going to fix them or thinking that you can butt in where you're not wanted. I mean, I don't violate those boundaries. But I always have that tension in me about, you know what, man, I really care for this person. I really appreciate their qualities, but I can tell they're lying, And so it's kind of a challenge, and it's something that you have to pray through. I mean, it's something, and that's why I did that thing every 24 hours. I would just say, all right, I got to sort this out. And after a few years, you just try to stop being a jerk.
That is cool. That is cool. I hope that after this session, phones will start ringing, guys.
Yes.
I speak to myself. I challenge myself. I have a couple of people I would probably call.
Now, keep in mind, you still have to use some wisdom for, remember I said I do this prayerfully.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times I will be ready to call somebody, be ready to go apologize to somebody. And the Lord will say, not yet.
Not yet. Honey, oh, I'm kidding. Not yet.
And
Work.
as far as I can tell,
Yeah.
what God is doing, God's trying to prepare them to be receptive so that it doesn't turn into another explosion, so it doesn't turn into another argument. And there's been a lot of there's even been a lot of people that I didn't do anything to them. They did something to me, but I still wanted to have reconciliation.
Yeah.
And God just say, no, leave it alone. Leave it alone for now.
Hmm. Okay, last question. Thank you so much. I think
You're welcome.
I gave you like 1,000 questions today. Thank you. Love is patient. Thank you for being patient. How not to, me as a worshiper, as a musician, how not to complain during worship when I see so many flaws, so many, how not to, because you think you're judging, but some things, like you said, it's obvious for you.
Yeah.
Like you can recognize authenticity from pretending, authenticity, genuine worship from concert and performing and self-seeking. Oh, me, it's all about me. How not to, how to keep it cool inside, between me and God when I see it, when I experience it.
Well, there's several things, but one of the things that comes to my mind, first and foremost is that um, I'm sorry, I had so many thoughts run through my mind that was
Oh no.
uh,
Mhm.
in our ministry, when somebody would come to work for me, now again, contractors, people that we're not here every day. They don't go. I don't take them through the same uh, uh, training that I would take a staff member through. But one of the things that every time anybody wanted to come to work for me, they would, when they would come there and say, man, I've never, you guys, you don't have much strife in your church. There's not a lot of power play in your church. And something that a record that we probably held that probably no church in America has ever held. We never had less than 60% of our people actively involved in serving. Now, and people were just astounded at that. Why? How do you have so many volunteers, and why are so many people doing things? And I said, well, you're going to learn that, but I said, now here's the number one law, and if you violate this and you violate it habitually, I will fire you. I'm just telling you this up front. And I'd always go to that teaching about Jesus where he talked about we don't exercise lordship or authority over anybody. I'd say, now the reason we have so many people serving is because I know how to inspire people. And I never push people to do anything. I never make anybody do anything, but I inspire people. And I said, so if you're a leader of a department, the thing that you have to learn how to do is inspire people. And I said, so I will never allow you, I'll never tolerate you using negativity, condemnation, pressure, or manipulation or guilt to get somebody to serve. As I'm telling you, if you ever do it, I'll talk to you a couple of times and try to teach it and walk you through this, but then I'll fire you. And so again, this goes back to the thing where too many leaders have been influenced to think that because we're in a role, we have authority over people, and we don't have authority over people. So that means that we don't really have any right to just speak into their life. It doesn't matter if they're part of our church, if they're not a part of our church. With our worship team, the thing I would always say is like, look, if you have to just shut your eyes and not look at anybody because they're annoying you, then just shut your eyes and keep your attention on God. Worship leading is a work of a shepherd. Now, how the shepherd doesn't run around beating the sheep with his rod to get them to travel the path. He just walks in front of them and they follow him.
Yes.
And so I said, so our thing is, if they are not worshiping, number one, maybe we're not inspiring them. If they're not worshiping, maybe they're going through something at home that we know nothing about, that has nothing to do with this. if they're not worshiping, maybe they're just not connected to God. And us getting on to them and getting mad at them is not going to get them connected to God. The question is, can we be like shepherds who we are just going to lead? That's all we're going to do. We are going to connect with God for ourselves, whether they do or not. And at the end of a worship service, whether they've enjoyed it or not, we are going to be encouraged. We're going to be built up. We're going to be connected to God. We're going to be edified. And whether they are or not, that's really up to them.
Yeah.
So through worship services and the environment, I don't know a lot about the church that you're in. I'm glad I don't, so I can make this statement.
I'm talking in general.
Yeah, I am too, but I just want to make sure you understand. I'm not making any direct inferences toward any particular church. But in any particular situation, like in worship, for example, it's not just getting there singing about the good songs.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I would talk people through. If we were singing a song and the lyrics had certain meanings about connecting to God, I would just keep the band playing, and they always knew, bring the music down, and I would start saying, think about these words. Think about what it might mean to connect to God. And then many times I'd say, I want you to shut your eyes for a minute. I want you to picture the greatest moment of anybody ever making you feel loved and feel safe. And I've kind of taken that and I said, now I want you to think about the fact that right now, God is right here to do that very same thing for you. So I would always find some way to kind of guide them through it and then weave back into the worship and make it where it flows. But so I feel like I have a responsibility to try to inspire. And that means that doesn't mean manipulate, it doesn't mean pressure, it doesn't mean any of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be so frustrated with the people that I can't preach.
Right.
There's been worship services where I literally I would have to walk off of the platform and I would just say, you guys, get somebody singing a special. I got to go do something. And I'd have to go into another room and just repent. I would be so angry. I'd be so frustrated. I'd be like, God, I am not going to preach in this mindset. And if I couldn't get over it, I wouldn't even preach. I'd just go back and say, you know what? Today be just a good day to take your family out to lunch. And I'd just dismiss the church. I mean, I just would do it. But I don't want to get to the end of a worship service, and I am so frustrated that I'm backslid.
Yes, I get it. Those are those moments, intricate moments that no one knows of, but we all go through at certain times. Only Holy Spirit is there with us to see what we are going through. Yeah, you're right. As a pastors.
And so the thing is, I would always leave church edified.
Yeah.
They might not, but I was going to be.
So were you able to snap out? I mean, yeah, with hard physics, of course, you are creator of all these wise tools. But were you really able always to snap out of your frustration and leave people uplifted? How did you do that? That's huge.
I'm sure there were times I didn't.
But
like I say, I would just I didn't mind walking off the platform. I wouldn't do it in a mean way. I would just say, right now I would call somebody that I knew, like somebody that I knew was a great, not just a great singer, but a great inspiring singer. I might just say, you know something, David, I've just been kind of thinking about. I've been wanting to hear you sing. Come up here and just tell the band what you want to do. And then I would just with nobody noticing, just leave the room. And I'd go while they were doing what they were doing. I would go, and it'd take me a few minutes sometimes to work it through. But the main thing was I would own it. I should not have this attitude. I would repent. I would deal with my issues, and then I'd go back and just be fine. And you could anybody do that. It just now. So again, that's why I say some churches wouldn't give you the freedom to do that if you're the worship leader.
Yeah, because it's all clicked, it's all time plan and stuff. Yeah.
So, and I'm not being critical of those churches. That's where they won't do it. That's their way. That's just not the way we ever did it.
Yeah, that's good. That was freedom. I prefer that. You know what? Today, this is mine. I'm not mocking or criticizing mega churches, but after seeing it all, experiencing it all, I long and I enjoyed the most intimate time at the small churches. There is such beauty, so many points. We could talk another session about small congregations versus huge monastery where you walk in and out, you're not even noticed.
Oh yeah, there's no connection with people.
Mhm.
You know,
They have good sides, good stuff. Yeah, it attracts people who would never come to church, but
and you know what? And that's what some people want. That's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some of the people never got about. I would have people call me and just say, "You got to be kidding! You don't really do this, do you?" If a church had over 400 people, I would usually turn them down. I wouldn't go.
Wow.
And they would say, "No, you don't understand, Dr. Richards. You know, we got a lot of money. We can give you a good offering." I said, "You know something?
I don't care.
I don't care about that."
Oh, this is
And they would say, "Well, why not? Why don't you want to come here?" And I said, "Well, I don't usually go to churches more than 400." They would say, "Well, why?" And I would say, "Because usually it's just another meeting. It's usually rigid. It's usually cold. It's usually you don't have any flexibility to follow the Holy Spirit." And I said, "And I'm not saying you're wrong. You're doing it the way you feel like you need to do it, but I'm going to do it the way I feel like I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to come to a church
wow.
where I cannot minister the way it works for me."
It's huge.
And
That
people were shocked. They were saying, "You're kidding. You turned down I've turned down a lot of churches that has, several thousand members. Now I've spoken in churches that had 25,000 members or
right,
50,000.
right. I was going to mention that. You said you came from 25 people to 25,000. So
And
you
the better meeting was with the 25 people, not the 25,000.
right? Yeah, it's so that intimacy and freedom is so valuable that we are losing today. Well, we could talk about church. See, we are turning into something else. That's so
Let's
good.
not complain. Let's not complain. We're just saying there are people that choose to do it this way. They're comfortable doing it this way. And there's people that choose it this way. So, one of the things that helps me not complain,
Uh-huh.
I just don't go into environments that I know I'm not going to be satisfied in, because then I'm going to be tempted to complain.
What if you have to go?
Well, if I have to go, this is a frustrating answer. I
Yeah.
never feel like I have to do anything.
So
I mean,
good.
honestly, so something's not working for me. Here's the way I pray myself out of bad situations. It's like, God, I want to be a peacemaker in this thing. This is not working. You're going to have to move and help this thing come together, that I can walk out of this situation and leave them better than they were before I got there, and nobody gets hurt. And then I just kind of walk it through, pay attention to God. And I'm telling you, 50 plus years, every time I've ever sought God in that way, the right opportunity always came along that I was able to say, "But you know what? I really think probably somebody could do a better job at this than I'm doing. I am not a good fit for this situation." I wouldn't say you're not a good fit for me. I would say I am not a good fit
Yeah,
for
right,
this
right.
situation. And I've enjoyed it, but if it's time for me to move on, let's just do it and be a blessing to each other.
Such a wisdom. Very good. You gave us so many nuggets, but like also freedom.
Yeah.
We don't have to. Who said you have to do certain things? Who said? Wow, this is so good. So
Good.
good.
Well, I've
Liberating.
enjoyed it. I have missed doing these things with you,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we got. But I'm finally getting kind of caught up on my work for the first time in about 2 years,
Because
and
I didn't call you.
so this was perfect.
Thank
Well,
you.
I got to go jump into another meeting, but man, I have loved this so much, and we will do this. We won't wait nearly as long the next time. All right.
Absolutely. I will make sure that you don't miss me.
All right. Good. Good.
Thank you guys so much. We love you.
Yes.
But Dr. Jim, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.